Hello everyone and welcome to another video in this channel. Today we're going to be working with a really interesting piece. Now this is not going to be a series, like we're not going to start a new series or anything. I'm actually just going to guide you through something that I do commonly, which is I help my students get better. So if you saw the video, how to make your sculptures look better, today we're going to go over this. This is a sculpture that one of my students did. He's doing this sort of like a wood golem, and it's like a female creature wood golem, as you can see right here. And this is what we have. So as you can see, or actually I have the whole body over here. This is what he's working on, and I'm coaching him through the whole process. And today I'm going to show you how we can make this face look even better. So as you can see, this face is made out of two different pieces, like this sort of like cover that we have on the upside, and this like the heart of the tree. And this is what we're going to be working with, because one of the fundamental things that you need to know about sculpture is that we need to make sure that we capture the form properly. And in the case of the female face, form is one of the most important and at the same time one of the trickiest things to do. So I'm going to go with my clay buildup here, and I'm going to of course turn on symmetry. And I'm going to go really aggressive. We're going to do this in a sort of like an crochet approach, where we're going to be focusing on the main things first. So what are the main things? Well, of course we know that the eyes are going to be roughly around here. We're going to be doing the eyelids and everything. Usually the head, we divide it into three sections. This is like the top section. The first section is where the eyebrows are going to stop. The second section is where the nose stops. And on the last section, the mouth, this is a very common mistake. The mouth should be on the first third of the last third of the last section of the head. So I'm going to use my move brush, and I'm going to move the mouth up a little bit more like this. Now, another thing that's very important is how flat or how round we make the silhouette of a character. And to do this, or in this case right here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be pushing the nose inside. Usually with female like noses, we tend to have like a more of a pointy round nose. Think about like the Disney princesses, right? Where they have this really like nice and soft like curvature to the nose. And I'm going to add the little like nostrils right there. Smooth brush and a little bit of clay buildup again to rebuild this whole thing. I'm gonna thin this out a little bit more, and there we go. So as you can see, this is already giving us quite a nice little profile. But one of the things that's really bothering me is the mouth right here. The mouth, as you can see, needs to curve back a little bit more. When you see the mouth from the bottom, hopefully you can see mine a little bit, it should be like a round, it should be curved. So what I need to do here is I'm gonna push the lips up a little bit, give this sort of like feminine look to the lips. I'm gonna push the corners of the mouth back, and then I'm gonna open the mouth and create this sort of like a round shape right there. See that? Now I know this looks really creepy right now, but we're gonna fix it. And actually, when I'm working on the mouth, I like to go or create something called the barrel of the mouth, which is the protrusion or the main area where the lips are gonna be. So something around there. I'm gonna use trim dynamic. I use trim dynamic quite a bit to flatten things up, and there we go. Now I feel like the face right now is looking okay, but the silhouette's a little bit off. So I'm gonna push the silhouette in a little bit here. I'm gonna make the jaw go down a little bit more like this. This is mainly to have a little bit more room, because I feel like we're running out of room. And what we're doing here, again, we're not focusing on anatomy. We're not focusing on the muscles or the bones. We're focusing on the form. Like, what are the forms that we expect to see on a human face? Sometimes people refer to this as like planar studies, where we use this trim dynamic technique and we try to get the best possible like result. Now, if all of these things that I'm doing right now seem a little bit too difficult or too complex, or maybe I'm going a little bit too fast, I want to remind you guys that we have a lot of courses about ZBrush available, and right now we actually have this very special bundle. Hey guys, I am super happy to announce that we have a great package for all of you. I know a lot of people want to learn about ZBrush, they want to begin their ZBrush career, and this is the best deal you can get. For the next 5 days until March 11, we're gonna have this bundle available through ArtStation. 17 of our best-selling courses at an amazing price. We have things like Introduction to ZBrush, Character Likeness, Hard Surface Sculpting, Creature Creation, 3D Printing, and much more. Our best 17 courses are gonna be available at an 80% discount for only $35. The price originally is $180, but we're gonna lower all the way down to $35. $35 for 17 courses, and you guys are gonna get the best possible teaching that you can for ZBrush. This bundle will only be available until March 11th, so for the next 5 days only, and it's only gonna be available through ArtStation. So make sure to check the link down here and become a great 3D artist in no time. So now that we have this shapes, we can start thinking about some of the features that we want this character to have. Now, I definitely want to go for this sort of like porcelain. It's supposed to be a wood golem, right? But I want to do like a carved woman face. So I'm going to grab my Damien standard and I'm going to start like placing where the mouth is going to be. So the mouth is roughly going to be right around there. And again, we need to think about how the chin is working. In this case, the chin is a little bit too low and too prominent. So I'm gonna bring the cheek down. We also have like the zygomatic bone. This is a like the cheekbone that we normally have here, and it creates a really interesting plane for our face. Now here, my student, he did the face asymmetrically because he wants to have like this big chunk of face like missing, and that's fine. However, when you're starting, I always recommend to try and keep things as simple as possible first, and then we start like making things a little bit more complex. So for instance, here, this is where the nose is gonna be, and we can start pushing the nose right here. I'm gonna use my clay buildup to carve in the sort of like shape that we normally have here on the lips, because lips tend to push forward. This. And I'm gonna remove some of the lower lip. You're gonna see why in just a second. So with my clay buildup, I'm removing some of the lip so that I can work on the upper lip a little bit better. As you can see right there. Can make it a little bit fuller. And then with Damien Standard, if you want to make it sharper, you can press Alt and sharpen this up a little bit like that. See that? So that gives us a really nice, clean effect. There's a little like indentation that we have here on the lips. Then, of course, the nostrils. Nostrils are really different. Some people have like really big nostrils. Some people have really small nostrils. I'm going to keep a small nostril right there. Smooth all of this out. This is called the nasolabial fold, which is a fold that we normally get going, or it starts on the nose and it goes all the way around the mouth. Really important for like expression lines and stuff. I'm going to keep it simple for now. And now that we have this, I can mask the upper lip and go to the lower lip and inflate it with form. I'm not inflating it with the inflate brush. I'm literally sculpting the form of the lower lip, which should go inside or down. It goes pretty much inside of the corner of the upper lip. Some women will have like really full lips. Some will have a really slim ones. It depends on the type of character that you're going for. In my case, I'm kind of going for like thin lips right here. Looks a little bit creepy right now. That's fine. It's part of the process. Female faces and faces in general tend to be quite time consuming. Like you need to spend quite a bit of time like modeling and sculpting to get something that looks nice. One thing that I recommend is if you're working on an area such as the nose, just isolate it so that you're only focusing on the nose, because if you see things that you're not currently working on, it might be very distracting because you're seeing like errors and mistakes that are like not really there, but they're a little bit more like obvious because of the way we're constructing things. I'm gonna add a little bit more volume here to the nose. There we go. And usually right beneath the lips, we're gonna have a little dimple and a cushion of muscles right here, which is called the orbicularis oris. It's kind of like a donut that goes around the mouth. Lands nicely there onto the chin. There we go. And then, of course, we have the chin. Male characters will usually have this thing like really intense. Now the mouth seems like really tiny, really small. So I'm going to use my move brush. Just make it a little bit bigger. And now let's fix a little bit of the eyes, because the eyes are definitely creating a little bit of an issue right here. So first of all, I'm going to carve in a little bit more here to give more depth to the face. Like usually when you see a face from the side, you're going to see like the side of the nose right here. And if we don't have that size of the nose, it might look a little bit weird. So it's important that we try to do that. And a little bit more volume here. There we go. Let's give her a rounder, pointier nose. I'm going to grab with move brush. There we go. Kind of speed running this, by the way. Let's push the jawline up a little bit more. And now with clay buildup, we can remove a little bit of the cheek fats that we have here. But again, I'm not really like, if you watch closely how I'm like treating all of this thing, I'm not really treating this as if like an anatomy study. I'm following the forms. And what do I mean by forms? Forms are anything that catches light: a round form, a square form, a cylindrical shape or form. Like all of these things will give me a specific look to my character. And by modifying those forms, by changing the way they look, I'm gonna be able to create something that looks really, really nice. Let's bring the lips lower over here. I sharpen the lip a little bit. There we go. It looks a little bit better. Again, it's looking a little bit too harsh, so I'm going to use my train dynamic. I love train dynamic because with train dynamic you can erase things while at the same time like tightening up the form if you wish. Now we definitely need to add the eyes. This is supposed to be again like a wood golem, so we can exaggerate the eyes. For instance, I'm gonna make the eyes slightly bigger than like a normal character. And I'm gonna go. Oh my god, sorry. I'm gonna go with something like this. So quite big eyes. You can look quite nice like that. Usually the center of the eye is supposed to be aligned to the corner of the mouth. Like if you make a line from the center of the eye to the corner of the mouth, you should have that sort of like distribution. C plugin, Subtool Master, and we're gonna mirror this to the other side. There we go. And then with clay build up again, I'm just gonna build up the eyelids real quick. So that's gonna be the upper eyelid, and that's gonna be the lower eyelid. We do have Dynamesh turned on, so let's. Oh, wait a second. We have polish turned on. I actually don't want polish right now. There we go. Let's clean up this thing a little bit. Now, remember how I mentioned that my student was trying to do this, what's the word? This asymmetrical thing. I'm actually going to mirror this thing, or mirror and weld, to go back to a normal face first, and then we'll recover the sort of effect that he was going for. Now, I'm going to use clay buildup again to build a little bit of the eyebrow. And usually here on the inside of the eyes, we're going to have a concave shape followed by our convex, or sorry, a convex concave. It's gonna be like a little hole there. Like we're gonna carve in a little bit of volume, or carve out a little bit of volume, and then the volume is gonna return over here. And immediately after we have that, that's where we're gonna have the eyelid. So this is where the eyelid would be created. This is just one way to do the eyelids. I've seen people do them in so many different ways, like half spheres and stuff like that. This is just one way that I'm using right now to move a little bit faster. Let's do that. I'm going to use move brush. And again, in a very similar way to how when we see the mouth, as I mentioned, we need to see the, what's the word? We need to see the roundness of the mouth. We also need to sort of like see the roundness of the eye as well. When we see the eye from the side, the upper eyelid should be pushing quite a bit out. So I'm going to use here my move brush to really push this thing out. Now, my student was telling me that he wants to 3D print this. So for 3D printing, we need to take other things into account. For instance, we're not going to go super realistic. We're going to be a little bit stylized. And this is because when you do things like super thin in 3D printing, you can get some issues. Like it becomes really difficult to print things that are super, super small. So usually on the lower eyelid, we're going to keep it really, 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 really thin. So I'm just going to add like a nice little shelf right there for the lower eyelid, and that's going to give me a nicer result. I can definitely see that now my cheekbones are a little bit too high, so I'm going to start using again trim dynamic to recover the sort of like shape of the skull. It's also giving this sort of like hard surfacey carved look. It's supposed to be a carved statue, so we can do something like that. This is supposed to be an enemy, so one thing we can very easily do is just make her slightly angrier. There we go. Now it's some details. It's supposed to be like a wooden statue that was carved. And it's like defending or protecting something. So we can improve the sculpture by working on the forms. See how I'm not worrying about like wrinkles and details and stuff like that? Just worrying about the forms. One thing that's definitely like freaking me out is the fact that she has no ears. So I'm gonna add some very rudimentary ears. Again, that can be like carved ear, that's fine. Let's flatten that a little bit over there, flatten it over here. Just from a proportioned like standpoint, right? And as you can see, this is looking quite nice. If we compare this original face that we had right here to this one that we have right here, the face looks a lot more with a lot more form. As you can see, the proportions were not that off. It was the form that needed a little bit of polishing. I'm again gonna go with my trim dynamic. I'm gonna start polishing this face. And one of the things that you definitely want to do, especially for 3D printing, is exaggerate a couple of things. For instance, I'm gonna exaggerate the curvature of the nose a little bit. I'm gonna push the mouth out a little bit more because you lose quite a bit of detail when working with really small elements. And if this is gonna be a miniature, we're gonna lose a lot of detail. So by pushing things and exaggerating things a little bit more, we're gonna get a slightly nicer effect. I definitely want to rebuild the lips right here. So with a really small brush, need to bring back some of the nice volume that we had before. Oh. Back a little bit. I think the mouth is falling a little bit low now. There we go. That's a little bit better. Now, usually with angry faces, remember the nasolabial fold that we talked about? That's going to be a little bit more visible. So I would expect to see a little bit of an expression line going into the nostril. I think we definitely need more geometry. We're working with very little geometry, and for faces, we usually need quite a bit more. There we go. Nice. I'm gonna add some lines here to separate the eyebrows. We can even give it like a little eyebrow detail. Train dynamic again to soften this and generate a slightly more anatomically correct like a skull. I know this is not supposed to be like a human character. Usually on the corners of the mouth, we're also gonna have a little bit of extra fat. It's the very corners of the mouth. Just gonna add a little bit of that detail right there. And again, thinking about 3D printing, let's really push some of this guys in, because that detail is gonna be lost on the printer. And by really pushing it, it's gonna be a little bit easier to keep that detail. And you can see it if you go to like My Mini Factory, which is a site that sells a lot of 3D prints for tabletop gaming. You're gonna see that a lot of things are really exaggerated. And it might seem like a bad idea, but again, from a 3D printing perspective, you lose a lot of detail due to the size. Not everyone has like a 4K printer, and that's the kind of stuff that you're gonna have to take into account. Now over here we have the jawline. I am gonna separate the jawline with a line right there, and then with clay buildup, I'm just gonna like blend in that line, so it looks more like something that we actually separated. I personally love this sort of like half finished look for paintings and stuff, because it looks very, I don't know, artistic. Does it look artistic? I'm a huge fan of like Rodin. So if you've seen like the Thinker statue, he had like this very intense way of doing his sculptures, where you could see the strokes, like the brush strokes or the clay strokes, like all of the tools, the different tools that he used. You can't see them on the sculptures. I've always liked that sort of style, like this sort of like raw style. I've mentioned this before. I'm a huge fan of like all of the Impressionists, Monet, Picasso. Who was that guy that did the ballerinas? He always painted like ballerinas. But that sort of style, like that sort of art style where you can see the hand of the artist, I've always found that one to be really cool. And that's kind of like what I'm doing here. So there you go. Again, no worrying about like what's the muzzle here, what's the anatomy here. It's about the form. How do I want the light to be affecting this character? Now, my student here, he had this asymmetrical and he had this like mask. So let's do that real quick. For the asymmetry, I'm of course just gonna break this. I'm gonna go with my select lasso. Actually, I'm just gonna like go crazy with my clay buildup. So I'm just gonna like start carving in all of these areas. And I'm gonna carve in like half the eye. Like I kind of want to see like the inside of the sphere. I feel like that's a good idea. I'm gonna use string dynamic here to push those like polygons closer together. There we go. There we go. There we go. Oh. And now it's just a matter of giving this sort of a wood effect or chipped wood effect, right? So we're gonna start adding this. We're cleaning the border a little bit. We have like a knot over here. So let's respect that knot and follow the lines that we had there into the head. And with trim dynamic, you can just like clean a little bit of this detail and it should look like chip wood. One thing that I found throughout my time as an artist is that there are certain projects where abstraction is really important. Like we tend to worry a little bit too much about perfection and making sure everything's super, super, super perfect, which should always be a focus, right? But sometimes abstraction, like just indicating the sort of like damage and stuff that you are trying to indicate is more than enough to sell the idea of what you're doing. So for instance, this right here, it probably looks like cracked rock, right? Like cracked stone. But once we add texture, like wood texture, it's gonna read like wood texture, right? And it's gonna give us the sort of like detail and results that we want. I probably do want to damage the eye as well. So I'm gonna go here into the eye element, and that's gonna allow me to do this. There we go. Now we just keep going with the detail, random detail. See how this random detail, again, imagine this is like the distance that we're going to be seeing the sculpture once we print it. So we don't really need to focus too much on the big details. With something like this, just like general texture, it will look like chipwood. Again, with texture and everything, it will definitely look like chipwood. Here I can do some of the wood paneling. I already started adding her couple lines to indicate that she's made out of wood. And see how easy it is to describe a material with just very, very basic details. Like we don't even need to like sculpt the ear or anything. That's more than enough. Now on this one, if you remember, we had like a mask, like a bark mask. So let's do it. Easiest way to do it, just extract. So I'm just gonna go here to this guy right here. I'm gonna do kind of like half a mask. I really like the eyes. I think they look quite nice. So I'm just gonna do like a half a mask right here. Even the mouth. No, actually the mouth. Did we cover the mouth? I want to cover half the mouth. So like this. This is gonna be again like a piece of bark that still hasn't like fallen from the head. I'm gonna go to extract. We're gonna extract. I'm gonna say thickness at 0. I'm gonna extract, accept. It's one of the tricks that I show on the 3D printing course, by the way. If you want to check it out on the little bundle that we're offering right now. And then that mask we don't need anymore, so I'm just gonna delete. Hit OK. Grab this new mask. And if I check the polyframe, let's isolate here real quick. This is what we have. It's not bad, but I'm gonna remesh this. So I'm gonna go geometry, see remesher, and we're gonna see remesh to get a cleaner topology because right now we have way too many polygons. That's a lot better. And now I'm gonna go to dynamics of division. I'm gonna give this thickness. And this is gonna allow me to find like the actual thickness that I want for this mask. I think something like that should be more than enough. I'm gonna hit apply. And of course, we're gonna dynamesh this. And now with trim dynamic, I'm gonna clean some of these areas. I'm actually not gonna have the mouth on this one. We kind of like covering it. Probably gonna move this a little bit right there. And yeah, that's looking quite nice. I'm gonna use my move brush, and I do want to give this a little bit more silhouette. So I'm gonna push this like bark pieces up. I think it might be a good idea to make this look kind of like a crown. So I'm gonna really bring this up with the bark. And then this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grab, let me quick save real quick. I'm gonna grab my knife curve. And I'm gonna cut some elements here from the bark, kind of like a splintered bark, right? And then when we dynamesh, as you can see, we get that. Let's give this a little bit more resolution on the dynamesh. When this happens, just go to mesh integrity, fix mesh, and then that should work. That's one of the ways to solve it. Now, again, with trim dynamic, I'm gonna like bevel and create some nice, interesting effects on the silhouette of this sort of like crown effect. Kind of looks like a splinter thing, right? And of course, with them in standard, I'm gonna push some of these lines down, create like the paneling of the wood. And there you have it, guys. Fix your sculpture in 20 minutes. Now, I know it's a little bit of a clickbait title. I'm sorry about that. But I just wanted to show you how by improving your skill and, of course, getting better and better, learning and improving, which is one of my personal mottos, always learning, always improving. By doing that, you will be able to take something like this character right here and create something that looks really cool, really interesting. So yeah, it's it's relatively short video today, guys. Again, if you want to check all of the tools that I'm using here, we teach them on the classes. They're down here on the description for the bundle, the epic bundle that we're doing for ZBrush classes. And that's pretty much it, guys. Tomorrow we're probably going to be finishing the Japanese tunnel. Also, let me know in the comments what kind of stuff do you want to see in the channel. We always have like new series, modeling, texturing, but I'm trying to like move on into other different things. Maybe animation would be interesting to do. A little bit more about Unreal. As soon as we finish the Japanese, the next environment, I promise, is going to be the lighthouse. We're going to go back to the lighthouse and restart that project. So yeah, make sure to leave a like, share, subscribe. 34,000 subscribers this past weekend. That was amazing. Thank you, guys. And if you can help us grow even more, we can like continue to provide all of this cool information to you guys. So thank you very much, and I'll see you back tomorrow. Bye-bye.